In the vast, sun-baked plains of the African savanna, where the golden grass sways like waves in an endless ocean, a story of raw survival and unexpected heroism unfolds. Picture this. A majestic ostrich, the world's largest bird, stands tall with feathers shimmering under the relentless sun. But today, this gentle giant isn't just roaming freely. It's a devoted parent, guarding a clutch of precious eggs nestled in a shallow scrape in the earth. These eggs, large and speckled, hold the promise of new life, fragile miracles waiting to hatch. Yet lurking in the shadows of the acacia trees, a monstrous predator slithers closer, its scales glistening with deadly intent. This is no ordinary snake. It's a giant python, a behemoth of the wild, capable of crushing bones and swallowing prey whole. The air thickens with tension as the ostrich senses the approaching doom, its long neck craning in alarm. Will this helpless mother and her unborn chicks fall victim to the python's terrifying attack? Or will fate intervene in the form of brave heroes, police officers turned wildlife saviors who race against time to turn the tide? Join me as we dive into this heart-stopping tale of courage, where human bravery clashes with nature's fury. From the first hiss of danger to the triumphant rescue, every moment will keep you on the edge of your seat. This isn't just a story. It's a reminder of the thin line between life and death in the wild and how ordinary people can become legends. Buckle up, because what happens next is nothing short of extraordinary. Deep in the heart of the savannah, where the horizon stretches forever and the calls of distant animals echo like whispers from ancient times, our ostrich protagonist has carved out a simple yet vital existence. She's chosen a spot near a cluster of thorny bushes for her nest, a strategic hideaway that offers some camouflage from prying eyes. The eggs, each the size of a football, are arranged meticulously, warmed by the earth's heat and her occasional brooding. But tranquility is fleeting here. As the sun climbs higher, casting long shadows, the python begins its silent hunt. Coiled muscles propel it forward, eyes locked on the prize. This serpent, measuring over 20 feet, is a master of ambush, its patterned skin blending seamlessly with the dry underbrush. The ostrich flutters her wings nervously, an instinctive warning to any threats, but the python is undeterred. It's a game of predator and prey, one as old as time itself. Yet in this modern twist, help is on the way from an unlikely source, a team of local police patrolling the outskirts of a nearby reserve. Alerted by a ranger's frantic call, they gear up for a mission far from their usual urban beats. Sirens might not blare in the bush, but their determination roars louder than any engine. As the python draws nearer, the stage is set for an epic showdown. Who will prevail in this battle of wits, strength, and sheer willpower? Stay tuned, because the real drama is just beginning to uncoil. Before the shadow of terror descended upon this idyllic corner of the savannah, life for our ostrich was a harmonious blend of routine and quiet wonder. Let's call her Zara, a name that evokes the swift winds that sweep across the plains. Zara had wandered far from her flock to find the perfect nesting site, a patch of sandy soil shielded by sparse vegetation. Here, under the vast blue sky dotted with lazy clouds, she laid her eggs one by one, each a testament to her resilience in a harsh world. Ostriches, as you know, are remarkable creatures. Flightless, yet faster than most predators on foot, with powerful legs that can deliver kicks strong enough to fend off lions. But when it comes to parenting, they rely on camouflage and vigilance rather than brute force. Zara's clutch consisted of about a dozen eggs, pale and enormous, each weighing as much as 24 chicken eggs combined. She took turns with her mate brooding them, but on this fateful day, she was alone, her partner off foraging for the sparse greens that sustained them. The savannah buzzed with life around her. Distant zebras grazing in herds, their stripes a natural barcode against the landscape. Giraffes nibbling on treetops like elegant cranes, and the occasional warthog rooting in the dirt. Birds flitted overhead, their songs a soundtrack to the serenity. Zara stood sentinel, her keen eyes scanning the horizon, her long eyelashes batting away the dust kicked up by gentle breezes. She knew the dangers of the wild: hyenas with their bone-crushing jaws, cheetahs with blinding speed, but she had chosen this spot wisely, away from the well-trodden paths of larger threats. As the morning sun warmed the earth, Zara gently rearranged the eggs with her beak, ensuring even heat distribution. These eggs were her legacy, each containing a tiny ostrich chick that would one day burst forth, ready to run within hours of hatching. The shells were thick and tough, nature's armor against the elements, but vulnerable to determined predators. Zara's days were spent in this watchful routine, standing guard, occasionally pecking at insects or seeds, and rotating the eggs with care. The savannah's rhythm was soothing. The rustle of grass, the distant roar of a lion claiming territory, the chatter of monkeys in the trees. It was a world where survival was a daily dance, but for Zara, this nest represented hope and continuity. Little did she know that beneath the tranquility, a silent killer was awakening. Pythons, those ancient serpents of the bush, are patient hunters, often lying in wait for days. This particular giant had slumbered in a nearby burrow, its body a coil of pure muscle, scales patterned like the dappled light filtering through leaves. As hunger stirred it from rest, its forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air for sense of vulnerability. The ostrich eggs, rich in nutrients, were an irresistible prize. Zara, oblivious for now, continued her vigil, her heart beating steadily in the chest of a mother protecting her future. But the savannah holds no favorites. It's a theater where drama can erupt at any moment. The peace was about to shatter, replaced by a primal struggle that would test the limits of instinct and endurance. In those peaceful moments, Zara embodied the essence of wildlife's quiet beauty. Her feathers, a mix of black and white, ruffled slightly in the wind, and she stretched her neck high, surveying her domain with the poise of a queen. The eggs beneath her were warm, alive with potential, each pulse inside a promise of the cycle continuing. Friends of the wild, like curious meerkats popping up from burrows, added to the scene's charm. Their sentinel calls a shared warning system. But as noon approached, a subtle shift occurred. The birds fell silent, the wind seemed to hold its breath. Zara sensed it too, her head tilting, eyes narrowing. The savannah's peace was fragile, a veil over the constant undercurrent of danger. And as the python's shadow began to elongate, Zara's world teetered on the brink of chaos. As the sun reached its zenith, casting a harsh glare over the savannah, the first whispers of peril began to weave through the air. The giant python, let's name it Shadow for its elusive nature, had been roused by the scent of opportunity carried on the breeze. This wasn't a mere garden snake. Shadow was a rock python, one of Africa's largest, stretching over 18 feet in length and weighing as much as a grown man. Its body was a masterpiece of evolution, thick, muscular coils covered in intricate brown and olive patterns that mimic the dry grass and rocky outcrops. Pythons like Shadow are ambush predators, relying on stealth rather than speed. They can go weeks without food, but when they strike, it's with devastating precision. Shadow had slithered from its cool burrow under a termite mound, its belly empty after digesting a previous meal of a small antelope. Now, its senses honed in on the ostrich nest, drawn by the faint vibrations of Zara's movements and the allure of the nutrient-packed eggs. The serpent's tongue darted in and out, sampling molecules in the air, confirming the direction of its prey. It moved with glacial slowness, each scale gliding silently over the ground, avoiding dry leaves that might crackle and betray its presence. The savannah, usually alive with sound, seemed to hush in anticipation, as if nature itself held its breath for the unfolding drama. Zara, ever vigilant, began to feel an unease creep into her bones. Ostriches have exceptional eyesight, able to spot movement from miles away, but Shadow's camouflage was flawless. She paced around the nest, her massive feet thumping softly on the earth, wings half spread in a display of readiness. The eggs remained still, oblivious to the encroaching threat. Shadow inched closer, now only yards away, concealed by a clump of tall grass. Its eyes, cold and unblinking, fixed on the prize. Pythons don't venom, they constrict, wrapping their bodies around victims to squeeze the life out, then swallow them whole. For eggs, it would be simpler. Crack the shells with its jaws and consume the contents. But Zara was no easy mark. Her kicks could shatter bones, and her speed allowed for quick retreats. Yet as a mother, she was anchored to the nest, unwilling to abandon her brood. The tension built like a storm cloud gathering force. Nearby, a family of elephants lumbered past in the distance, their trumpets a distant rumble, but they were too far to notice the microdrama unfolding. Birds that had been chirping earlier took flight, their instincts warning of danger below. Shadow paused, assessing, its head rising slightly to gauge the ostrich's awareness. Zara froze, her neck extended, scanning intently. A low hiss escaped the python, barely audible, but enough to send a shiver through the air. The shadow lengthened as the afternoon wore on, the sun dipping slightly westward, elongating forms across the plain. Shadow resumed its advance, coiling and uncoiling in rhythmic propulsion. It was now within striking distance, the nest a mere slither away. Zara's heart raced. She stamped her foot, a warning thud that echoed faintly. But the python was committed, hunger driving it forward. In the wild, such encounters are common. Predators testing defenses, prey fighting for survival. Yet this one felt charged with extra intensity, the stakes amplified by the vulnerability of the eggs. Shadow's muscles tensed, preparing for the lunge. Zara reared up, wings flapping wildly, attempting to intimidate. The savannah watched, a silent audience to the prelude of terror. And then, in a twist of fate, a distant sound pierced the tension, the hum of an approaching vehicle. Unbeknownst to both combatants, help was en route. Local rangers had spotted unusual activity during a routine patrol and alerted authorities. But for now, the shadow dominated, inching ever closer to unleashing its fury. The air crackled with impending doom, every second stretching into eternity as nature's deadly ballet reached its crescendo. The moment of truth arrived like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile standoff. Shadow, the giant python, lunged forward with explosive speed, its massive jaws unhinging in a blur of motion. The attack was terrifying in its precision, aimed not at Zara initially, but at the exposed edge of the nest, where an egg gleamed invitingly. The serpent's body propelled like a released spring, covering the final distance in an instant. Zara reacted with instinctual fury, her powerful legs kicking out in a desperate arc. Her foot connected with Shadow's side, sending a ripple through its coils. But the python was undeterred, wrapping partially around the nest's rim. A hiss filled the air, loud and menacing, as fangs sank into the shell of the outermost egg. Crack! The sound echoed like a gunshot, yolk spilling onto the dry earth in a golden cascade. Zara screeched, a piercing guttural cry that cut through the savannah, flapping her wings with hurricane force to buffet the intruder. Feathers flew as she pecked viciously at Shadow's head, her beak sharp enough to draw blood from the scales. But pythons are built for endurance. Shadow recoiled slightly, only to strike again, its body undulating in waves to encircle more of the nest. The eggs rolled precariously, one teetering on the edge as the struggle intensified. Zara's eyes blazed with maternal rage, her neck whipping back and forth like a lash. The battle raged on, a whirlwind of scales, feathers, and dust. Shadow constricted around a section of the nest, crushing another egg with a sickening crunch. Zara leaped, stomping down with both feet, her claws raking deep gashes along the python's length. Blood seeped from the wounds, mixing with the dirt, but the serpent's grip tightened, its coils attempting to loop around Zara's leg. She twisted free, but not without cost, a tear in her skin, pain shooting through her limb. The savannah came alive with the chaos. Nearby animals scattered, a herd of impalas bounding away in alarm, their leaps graceful amid the horror. Shadow's tail thrashed, knocking more eggs askew, and Zara dove in, using her body as a shield. She rolled one egg back to safety with her beak, all while fending off the relentless assault. The python's eyes gleamed with predatory focus, its tongue flicking amid the frenzy. This was no quick kill. It was a war of attrition, each side pushing limits. Zara's breaths came in heaving gasps, her strength waning under the relentless pressure. Another egg fell victim, swallowed whole by Shadow in a grotesque bulge traveling down its throat. Tears, imagined in our anthropomorphic view, welled in Zara's eyes as she fought on, her kicks landing with thunderous impact. As the attack peaked, the terror reached fever pitch. Shadow fully committed, wrapping around Zara's lower body, squeezing with bone-crushing force. She bucked and twisted, her wings battering the serpent's head, but the coils tightened inexorably. The remaining eggs lay exposed, vulnerable to the python's next move. Zara's cries grew weaker, the savannah blurring in her vision. Dust clouds billowed, obscuring the scene like a veil of despair. But in the distance, the vehicle's sounds grew louder. Tires crunching over rough terrain, engines revving. The police were closing in, but would they arrive in time? Shadow sensed victory, its jaws gaping for another egg. Zara mustered one final surge, pecking ferociously at the python's eyes, forcing a momentary retreat. The ground was a battlefield of broken shells, blood and feathers. Heart-pounding, the audience, us, the viewers, holds breath, the raw power of nature's brutality on full display. This terrifying attack wasn't just survival. It was a symphony of fear and defiance, pushing both creatures to their edges in a dance of death. Just as despair seemed to cloak the scene, a new element entered the fray, the rumble of approaching vehicles cutting through the chaos like a beacon of hope. These weren't ordinary savannah wanderers. They were a team of brave police officers from a nearby rural station, thrust into the role of wildlife heroes. Led by Sergeant Elias, a seasoned veteran with a deep respect for nature, the group had been alerted by a vigilant ranger who spotted the disturbance through binoculars. Elias, with his weathered face and steady gaze, had patrolled these lands for years, handling everything from poachers to lost tourists. Today, his team included Officers Lena, a quick-thinking animal enthusiast, and Marcus, strong and fearless, equipped with basic rescue gear, ropes, poles, and tranquilizers borrowed from the wildlife department. As their jeep bounced over the uneven terrain, kicking up dust, they assessed the situation from afar, the thrashing forms of ostrich and python locked in mortal combat. "We've got to act fast," Elias barked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline. They parked a safe distance away, grabbing tools and forming a plan. Pythons were protected species, but so were ostriches, and intervention was crucial to save lives. The officers approached cautiously, hearts racing as they witnessed the horror up close. Zara, exhausted but unyielding, continued to fight, her body partially entangled. Shadow, sensing new threats, hissed warningly, its coils loosening slightly to face the intruders. Elias directed, "Lena, flank left with the pole. Marcus, right with the rope. We distract and separate." They moved in formation, years of training kicking in. Lena, with her knowledge of reptiles, knew pythons relied on constriction and could be pried loose with leverage. She jabbed gently with the pole, drawing Shadow's attention, while Marcus looped the rope around an exposed section of tail. Elias coordinated, shouting encouragements to keep the team focused. The savannah wind carried their voices, a human counterpoint to the animal struggle. Zara, sensing allies, paused her attacks, her eyes locking onto the officers with a mix of wariness and desperation. The eggs, those that remained, lay scattered but intact for now. The heroes on the horizon had become heroes in the thick of it, their bravery shining against the backdrop of wild peril. With precision born of necessity, the rescue unfolded in a flurry of coordinated action. Elias signaled the start, and Marcus yanked the rope, pulling Shadow's tail to disrupt its balance. The python thrashed wildly, releasing its hold on Zara just enough for her to stagger free. Lena thrust the pole under a coil, leveraging it to create space, while Elias approached with gloves and a capture bag. "Steady now," he urged, his voice calm amid the storm. Shadow struck out, jaws snapping, but the officers dodged with agility honed from urban pursuits. Zara, freed but wounded, retreated a few steps, watching warily as her saviors took over. Marcus looped more rope, securing the midsection, and together they began to uncoil the beast from the nest. It was grueling work. Shadow's muscles resisted like steel cables, but the team's determination prevailed. Lena quickly gathered the surviving eggs, placing them in a padded crate from the jeep, shielding them from further harm. Elias administered a mild sedative dart, just enough to calm the python without harm. Adhering to conservation protocols, as the serpent slowed, the officers carefully bagged it for relocation, ensuring no permanent injury. Zara, now safe, approached tentatively, her neck low in what seemed like gratitude. The team checked her wounds, minor cuts treatable with antiseptics they carried. The savannah sighed in relief, the tension dissipating like morning mist. This daring operation wasn't just a save. It was a bridge between human and wild worlds, showcasing heroism in its purest form. In the end, triumph reigned as the police team loaded the relocated python far away, ensuring balance in the ecosystem. Zara reunited with her remaining eggs, her mate returning to share the brooding. The officers, dusty and exhilarated, drove off as heroes, their stories spreading like wildfire. This tale reminds us of bravery's power, how ordinary people can protect the helpless against nature's giants. In a world of conflicts, such acts inspire hope and respect for wildlife. Remember, courage isn't absence of fear. It's action despite it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more epic stories.